of comics and cosplay will be able to meet their heroes this weekend at the Singapore Comic Convention. Now, it's not just comic books anymore. Although they're still popular, there's also the chance to interact with characters across multiple platforms, from mobile games to blockbuster films. Henry Yin has more on what to expect.
The last stage of preparation and touch-up are still ongoing inside the exhibition halls just beside me before they open their gates to the 55,000 or so visitors or fans coming from around the world. And the area just behind me will likely be fully packed tomorrow morning. So according to the organizer of this year's comic conference, they were expecting that some fans to come in as early as 2 to 3 hours in advance, just trying to put their hands on the latest edition of those collectibles for them. So judging by the scale of this year's conference, we can tell how alluring the market is. And actually, just last year, the comic book industry expanded by some $80 million compared with the previous year. Don't forget, this happened at a time when the global economic growth is slowing down. So earlier, I've spoken with Suhaimi Sainy, who is the senior manager of the Singapore Comic Con. He explained to me why he thinks that the industry is full of potentials. Take a listen.
I think the industry is growing because people are looking for more experiences, and you see a lot more collaborations from the Asian as well as Western content. So for example, we have Mr. Kiasu doing a collaboration with SpongeBob SquarePants that will be released at the coffee book table we released here. And we see a lot of Asian creators that's also participating in our work in progress, where they can then try to create their own comics and be matched with publishers here in Singapore. So I think the industry still is booming because pop culture is something that's personal and very important to each people.
Yes, so the two-day event will also feature some big names such as DC Comics Batman illustrator Greg Capullo and Eisner Award nominee David Mack. And also, meanwhile, Disney fine artist James Mulligan, who has worked on hit animations such as Frozen, will also meet fans here. And what's worth mentioning is that this event has also attracted some 152 exhibitors from around the world.
So you've got your taster right now, but we also have Suhaimi Sainy, Senior Manager of Singapore Comic Con, joining us here tonight, as well as a special treat, Jin, a cosplayer who's cosplaying Sora from Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, before we get to the questions, Jin will show us a part of a performance at Comic Con. Jin, why don't you take it away?
Wow! I've never seen something like this before.
Neither have I.
Jin, so for those of us who aren't familiar with, so what you performed is Sora or Kingdom Hearts 3. What is it all about?
It's about a character who goes through different worlds. He usually goes through Disney-themed worlds, so this is from the Pirates of the Caribbean world.
Okay.
That's why it's a pirate theme.
Oh, okay.
So pirate theme, which brings us to your costume. So how do you sort of conceptualize the costume? What did you use to make it? The whole entire process. Give us a sense.
So the cool thing about video game graphics now is that they're so realistic that it kind of shows me what kind of fabrics I need to look for. So I just studied the render and then tried to copy it as closely as I could.
And so you did it on your own, or you bring it to a tailor to do it, or is there a company that sells, you know, pre-made costumes?
There are, but I prefer to make them myself along with my friends, because for me, the creation process is half of the fun. The other is wearing it.
How long does it take you to come up with something like this? Because it's not just the costume. There's also the accessories, like the thing that you're holding.
Yes. This took about a month to make. Some of it is 3D printed.
As well? Wow.
Some is 3D printed, and some parts of it I sculpted with clay.
Okay, so I think I really want to know, how expensive is it? You know, is it an expensive hobby?
It is, but I think any hobby is expensive. What I like about cosplay is that I learn new skills while I'm doing it, so it feels productive. And it also helps with my work.
Okay. Well, so I'm going to bring you to this conversation.
Sure.
So what's new at, Singapore's Comic-Con this year then?
Well, I think this year we are really amping it up. We have an amazing guest lineup with, mentioned some of them, Batman artists and all. Also this year we're actually getting a first look at a movie called Circle Line, produced in Singapore, a monster movie set in Singapore. There's also a new TV series coming up, and we're going to get first look. It's called Fluorescent Black, and the setting is actually in Singapore and Malaysia. It's a really cool biopunk story. This year also, we are going to get the first dibs on as Lego unveils their expert creator set at our show. And it'll be the first time the world has ever seen it.
So the thing about Comic-Con is it's gained so much traction all around the world. You watch movies, you watch TV series, and sometimes when it ties in with Comic-Con season, they address the Comic-Con, and you often have characters within pop culture and movies and TV go for Comic-Con. Why do you think it's such a popular thing? Why is it such a global phenomenon, you think?
Well, you see, I think everybody enjoys something that they can connect with. A lot of the stories that we read in comics or we see in the movies connects with people in a very emotional way. I think some of us cried at the end of Endgame. So that people feel a lot of kinship and the community comes together, just like cosplay communities are such a close-knit community. So everybody comes together and they enjoy the expression of their love for comics or toys or games together. And that's why Comic-Con is becoming more and more popular. It's a home of mecha fans.
All right. Speaking of that, Jin, how did you get involved in cosplay?
Well, I've always loved costume design and how it can speak something about a character before they even talk or are properly introduced. I think a big thing for me was the Lord of the Rings movies. So seeing characters brought to life sort of made me want to do that as well. And then I found this hobby where I could make costumes and wear them. And so I tried it and just never stopped.
What's the most intricate or complicated costume and character you've ever done?
Probably this is one of them. Because like everything here was sculpted by me, like every suction cup on the tentacle motif. So
what do your family think about it? Because well, your friends in the community obviously enjoy the same passion as you do.
Yeah.
Your friends who don't, who are not part of the community, what do they think of, you dressing up in cosplay? And what does your family think about it?
My family is actually really supportive because cosplay helped me sort of break out of my shell. I used to be really, really shy. So when I started cosplaying and they saw how it made me happy and more outgoing, they were really happy for me as well. And then since it didn't interfere with my school or my work, they're always supportive to this day. They're kind of embarrassingly proud of me. My parents will always show like my new costumes to their friends, and I'm like, stop.
So I mean, as you make your way to Comic-Con, do you go out in costume, or do you reach the location and then change out?
Into it?
And if you do go in costume, what kind of reaction do you get from the crowd? I mean, on the MRT train, you see a pirate shuffling up into the train. It's kind of...
I enjoy the reactions actually, and especially when it's little kids who recognize a character, and it makes them happy. So that's part of the fun for me. I don't think I've ever had like a bad experience going out. I prefer to head out in costume because if I bring all my stuff to the event, then I'd have too much things to bring and I might forget something.
So I mean, you've seen this throughout the years. Are you seeing the fan base changing in the sense that, you're getting older people, or is it still the younger crowd that's interested in comics?
It's an evolution. So you have the older crowds, people who grew up with the original Star Wars, loving the new Star Wars and the new ones coming out soon, right? And then they pass it on to their children, the love, because you will see in my queue when thousands of people are lining up, you got mommy, daddy, and you got little kids all decked out in their own Star Wars outfits. So mommy and daddies are all pushing, and you see this growing. So the love for pop culture transcends through generation.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, lots of exciting stuff. Thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us. I think we're gonna... Are you going to try and head there tomorrow? I know some of our colleagues...
We have a crew going tomorrow to just capture the essence of the place, because it's such an extravaganza, isn't it? All the costumes. It's almost like going to Disney World, but at Marina Bay Sands.
Yes, exactly. And I think my supervisor told me he might actually, make a stop there.
Okay.
So we've been speaking with Suhaimi Sainy, Senior Manager of Singapore Comic Con, and Jin cosplaying as Sora from Kingdom Hearts 3. So if you're interested, don't forget, tomorrow, Marina Bay Sands.